Next one, Issa, this one's for you. And this is a result of a tragedy and an absolute online meltdown from some people. And this is about the young Dillon Quirke. He turned 24 this year, a hurler from Tipperary. This is what actually broke out. It was that he dropped dead and immediately was vaccine induced. So Issa, you got a couple of minutes to tell us just what the reaction is and why is this your hot topic?
So I suppose I actually don't particularly like talking about someone who's just recently died, but I think there is a very important thing to be discussed here about Dillon. Dillon passed away after playing in a club hurling match for his club, Clonolty Rossmore. At the weekend, he dropped and collapsed on the field. He was attended to by medics, but unfortunately passed away. And within 24 hours, you had people going online to push their agenda without, let's just be clear, I am not a medic. All what I do know is that despite what would be, you would discover if you went on Twitter or the likes telling you how someone died, that none of these people have presumably performed any sort of post-mortem on Dillon. And also the fact is that in Ireland, because I actually looked into the numbers, we have circa 100 deaths annually from sudden adult death syndrome. And perhaps one of our most well-known in recent memory was in 2004, I could be wrong, with Cormac McAnellen, who was a footballer from Northern Ireland. And the reality is that sudden adult death syndrome has existed long prior to COVID, long prior to people getting COVID vaccines. It is an unfortunately tragic event that happens. And as a result of Cormac McAnellen's death, which again predated COVID, the GAA brought in a lot more measures to assist with players getting tested for various, like just to have basically heart monitoring, just to see if there was any way, because the unfortunate thing with deaths such as with SADS or indeed SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS has actually gone down in recent years, the death rate, whereas SADS has stayed relatively even. You can test, you can look for things, you can assume that because someone is a sports player, they're not going to have these sort of conditions. But people seem to forget that by its very nature, it's a sudden arrhythmic event that die from. But also sports players, even though they're being tested and checked, they're at the highest level of performing. So they're putting their bodies under immense strain despite being particularly fit. And I think what the incidents like this, where we already have good testing in place now for and monitoring for county level players, would be maybe an incentive. Obviously, Dillon was a much liked and possibly the only hurler in recent memory on the county team my dad hasn't complained about. So a popular tip hurler. But I think what this brings about is maybe we need to be looking at what sort of policies, and again, the GAA are getting lambasted with my policy idea. What policies need to be in place?
Unfortunately, we have some sad news to pass along
in terms of if they are going to have, like, when you go to a club game, are you going to have a defibrillator there? Will you have medics how many medics, etc.?
It should be there. No, Issa, it should be there because it's mandated, for example, in Russia, where every, like, in a training area, there needs to be a defibrillator. And I remember having arguments saying that we need to move from this training, Andrew would know, then across the press now, move from there to Lokomotiv because there was no defibrillator on site. And we had people from all different ages, all different fitness levels, all different health conditions training with us, and you can't take a chance.